Linda Thomas here is
Yep.
the clinical trials nurse for oncology at JFK Medical Center. She's been a registered nurse for 28 years and has worked with Dr. Landolfi over the last 5 years assisting with trials for patients with GBMs. Before her position at JFK, she worked at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey and UMDNJ facility practices where clinical trials were an integral element in oncology care. Please welcome Linda.
Hi, thank you. We've had such good speakers today. I hope I can live up to their standard. The information was wonderful this morning. I have been a nurse for 28 years, mostly in oncology care. And the clinical trials are really done for any type of treatment, any drug treatment, any equipment, any device treatment. That is really a standard that, at least in the United States and almost all countries in the world, will require some sort of trial to determine whether the drug or the device is safe and effective before it is used on humans. So clinical trials in my practice, in my career, was actually a standard of care. If you go to a national cancer center like the Cancer Institute in New Jersey, Fox Chase, Memorial Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson, Cleveland Clinic we saw this morning, all cancer centers, standard of care should include the option to have a clinical trial. Okay, so, I guess I have to do this part, right? Okay, so cancer, it is a serious disease, and whether you have a cancer or tumor yourself or not, you're going to know someone that has been affected by cancer, whether it be a loved one, a neighbor, a coworker, a colleague at school. Cancer is everywhere. There are all kinds of tumors, all kinds of cancers, different levels of cancers. We're all affected by it. Really, we want to look at different options of care because our goal really is a cure. Of course, we want the best treatment options so that we have a good quality of life, but the true goal is to have a cure for cancer. Okay, good news. Okay. This is old statistics, American Cancer Society, 2005. 64% of patients diagnosed with cancer, and this is cancer in general, this is not GBM, okay, just cancers in general, will survive 5 years. Actually, the whole focus nationally now is to look at survivorship because we're going beyond 5 years. The drugs that we used in 1960s, 1970s, some of those people are still alive and we want to know how are they doing. Or did the treatment we give them back then create other health problems for them 30 years later? So survivorship is a key element of any cancer care going forward. So we need to have long-term data on anyone that's been treated for cancer. So 64% is great, but we want better than that. And I'm sure these numbers have changed in the last 6 years. So that's great news, but we deserve better than that. Okay, what is a clinical trial? Okay, clinical trial is really a research study. It's investigational. Okay, we have standard of care that's already been approved out there. Now we need to see, is there something better than what we already have? Can we get better than 64%? So now can we look at new drugs? Can we look at the old drugs and use them in different ways? Can a drug that treated one cancer be used in another cancer, like we talked this morning about Avastin? Avastin is used for all kinds of cancers. It's used for colon cancer as well as for brain tumors. So they're looking to see, will it be beneficial for lung cancer? Will it be beneficial in other types of cancers? So we have to look at that. Today's standard treatments are a result of clinical trials in the past. Every drug that's out there has gone through some kind of clinical trial. So Temodar, which Dr. Landolfi likes so much, that went through trials and is still used in trials today. It's used in combination therapy with some type of radiation. Do you use it for a shorter period of time and then reinitiate it later on? There's all kinds of trials that still include the standard drugs that we have today that have been approved by the FDA. Okay, and again, the treatment may include new drugs, new types of surgery. Should we do stereotactic surgery? Should we do open surgery? I have a colon cancer study open that's looking at, is laparoscopic surgery for rectal cancers better than an open resection? And then it looks at quality of care issues. How long do you have to stay in the hospital? How long do you need narcotics? You know, what's the sequelae after you've been discharged home? Do you need to go for rehab? That sort of thing. Gene therapy, that was kind of exciting this morning when we talked about using a vector to do you know, gene transfer into the tumor bed to try to resolve a cancer, or a combination of the treatments. And very often they will use radiation and a drug, or surgery and a drug, or surgery and the vector that we were talking this morning. All of these are combinations. Sometimes a single modality is good, and other times you need combination therapy. Okay, well, this is our little friend, Charlotte, okay? You might say, I don't have all those pretty cartoons like they did. Charlotte is a guinea pig, okay? So if you're gonna go on a clinical trial, are you a guinea pig? And the answer to that is no. No, who said yes? No, 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 no. Okay. The answer really is no. And the reason I say that is because there's always standard of care treatment involved in cancer trials. Okay? It would be unethical not to give you standard of care. So there's standard of care either alone or standard of care with the investigational drug, okay? The other good thing about clinical trials is that when you have a standard of care treatment and you're not on a trial, you're going to have your routine visits. There's actually some, you know, accepted guidelines, how often you should come back to the doctor, how often you should have MRI treatment, you know, scans, you know, to see if the treatment is effective. All of that's already in place. When you're on a clinical trial, you're going to get more than that. You're going to, instead of seeing your doctor every other month, you're going to see your doctor monthly or every other week. Or it depends on the design of the trial. Some trials will have you come in every week for a certain period of time. When you get standard chemotherapy, it might be every other week. It might be once a month. It might be every 21 days, or it might be every 28 days. It really depends on what the tumor diagnosis is and what the treatment is. So it does make a difference in the type of treatment you're receiving. All right. Types of clinical trials. Okay, prevention trials. These are trials where we want to make sure that, you know, you might have a family history of a particular type of cancer, and you want to prevent, you know, you might be at high risk, but you want to do whatever it takes to do to not get that tumor yourself. And you see this in other diseases as well. With Alzheimer's disease, they know it's a genetic, you know, genetically predispositioned. They're able to do testing on certain types of diseases now to see, are you going to be a carrier of the gene? Are you going to be predisposed to get it yourself? Okay, so prevention trials. You know, if the doctor says to you, if you eat more broccoli and cauliflower as one of your source vegetables, you know, you might decrease your risk of colon cancer, and you know that your family history has a high incidence of colon cancer. So you might want to change your diet, or you might change, you know, your physical activity or something like that. Okay, screening. Okay, a screening trial. This is how we know that PSAs for prostate cancer had some value. We know that mammograms are screening tools, diagnostic tools that we can use to see and try to catch a cancer before it gets into a later stage. Okay, diagnostic trials, very similar. If we can diagnose it early, then we can treat it early and prevent the tumor or the cancer from becoming more widespread. That is the goal of a diagnostic. Okay, a treatment protocol or a treatment study is pretty much what we saw today. We're going to talk about drugs, devices, different types of surgeries. Usually it involves standard of care as well as something new, something that's investigational. The quality of life studies. These are usually questionnaire studies because we want to learn more about how you felt during the treatment. Did this affect you in other ways that the trial itself for the drug or the treatment was not specific, but how did it affect your quality of life? Does it affect your relationship with your family or your friends or your coworkers? Has it interfered with your ability to, go on with your daily routine, whether it be that you're a student or whether you're in a work environment? So these quality of life questionnaires are very important. And we identify from the quality of life things that maybe we need to supplement. I mean, it's one thing to come in and get your chemo or your treatment, whatever it may be. It's another thing that maybe we need counselors and social workers and nurses that can sit and help you problem solve and just listen to what your concerns are and listen to how all of this has affected you in your life. And that's equally important that we look at the psychosocial well-being of our cancer patients so that we can help them, just to have normal life and normalize their life as much as possible. And the genetic studies are the newest type of studies. Gene therapy, sometimes we have monoclonal antibodies that we're using, which are different types of treatments now that can really target the area of the tumor. We're learning so much more about DNA and RNA, and these are all terms that I thought when I was 13 or 14 years old, I want nothing to do with this anymore, right? So, I mean, I just wanted to graduate and get out of, freshman and sophomore year and get away from the sciences, right? No, it's coming back to haunt me. Here I am almost 60, and everything is DNA and RNA, right? So you always learn something. You take it forward. All right, let's go into the different phases. This again is not just cancer trials. This is all kinds of trials. Phase 1, let's go here. Phase 1 is safety. Do you want to come out? Okay. Phase 1 is safety. Okay. What's the best way to give this treatment? Okay. Should the treatment be given orally? Should the treatment be given by IV? Is it just a surgical treatment? What is the best way to give the treatment? And these phase 1 studies, we try to evaluate that. Okay, we have to find a safe dose. Okay, one of the trials we were talking about today, the Tocogen, it's escalating doses. Okay, we don't know which is the best dose yet. Okay, sometimes it's a lower dose, sometimes it's the intermediate dose, and sometimes it's the higher dose. I remember I used to take care of a large cohort of AIDS patients, HIV patients, and back in the 1980s when the new antiviral drugs came out, the HIV drugs came out, we high dosed everybody. So, but that high dose sometimes is too toxic, okay? And then it was years later that we learned we should be starting low dose and working our way up to what is best tolerated for the individual. So there's always a learning curve in science, and this is a learning curve. And you don't want the drug itself to be the cause of the demise. We want to be able to treat the tumors or the diseases as best as we can and, not let the drugs interfere with that quality. All right, and then the side effects. We have to look at side effects. And in the, earlier phase 1 studies, Dr. Landolfi said it also, you have such small numbers. And phase 1 studies, sometimes they're only looking at 20 patients. And you're looking at a treatment that's going to affect millions of people in the future. So to look at the data for 20 people, it's important. It gives us preliminary guidance as to where we should go. But we cannot draw all the conclusions from a phase 1 study. All right. Okay, phase 2, efficacy. Okay, does it really work? Does it really, treat the cancer, eliminate the cancer, alter the cancer, whatever it may be? We have to look at what effect it has. And sometimes we do that when you're on the treatment for a period of time And then every now and then we'll say we're going to draw extra samples. You know, you're going to have your routine CBC and your chemistries, but we're also going to do immune samples, or we're going to do other testing, because we want to see, is the drug or the treatment really affecting the cancer cells and affecting the immune system, and what is it doing to you? Okay, and we want to see what it does to the rest of your body as well, which is why we have to do all those chemistries and CBC. We want to know, is it affecting the liver or the kidneys? Because all drugs have to get cleared out through the body in some way. So we want it to kill the cancer cells, but we don't want it to kill the good cells. So we have to always monitor you very, very closely. You should never be on any drug, you know, and not have some sort of monitoring. You know, a lot of people are on thyroid drugs, Synthroid and levothyroxine. You should have blood tests periodically just to see that that's the effective dose for your body. You can't just get a prescription and not have blood work. So every 6 months, or at minimum 12 months, you should have some blood work done. All right. Phase 3 is comparison. Okay, this is really the big scale study at that point. You have higher numbers. You have thousands of people, or that's our goal, to get as many people as possible into a phase 3 study. Okay, we're going to be comparing standard of care, okay, and we talked about standard of care today for brain tumors, which is the Temodar, the Avastin, radiotherapy, BCNU, the wafers, the gliadil wafers. Those are all standard of care. And sometimes you have choices in standard of care, so that, you know, we look at other factors. Like in colon cancer, we'll look at the age of the person, okay? If they're an elderly person, they may not be able to tolerate like a very aggressive sort of chemotherapy. But that doesn't mean that they're going to not tolerate, you know, something different than that. So there's oral chemotherapies, there's combination chemotherapies, and there's also dose adjustments. So that we look at as well. So we take a lot of factors into consideration when we're trying to decide what treatment would be best for that particular individual. It's very individualized. So standard of care is more than one thing. Okay, and then very often you'll have, in the trial, you'll have the standard of care with the new investigational treatment, and then you'll have standard of care with a placebo. Now, placebo is never used in place of standard of care, and that's why people are worried, am I the guinea pig? They think, okay, I'm going to get the placebo. Okay, well, we don't know, okay? We don't know that the new drug or the new treatment is better than the standard of care. So at a minimum, you will always get standard of care. It would be unethical not to give you standard of care therapy. So sometimes we're blinded to it. These are randomized trials. So we don't do the randomization. Like the first person that comes into me, I don't have a choice. Okay, let me put them on the real drug. Let me put them on the standard of care with placebo. I don't have the choice in that. It's usually done in a larger, you know, group. It's computerized, you're randomized, and we're told you have arm A or arm B, or treatment 1 or treatment 2. And the drug, usually the investigational drug, is supplied to us, and it looks the same as the placebo because they've made a placebo to match it exactly. So we don't know if this pill is the same as that pill, if this pill is the placebo, this one's the treatment, if this little vial is the true vaccine and this little one is not the vaccine. We don't know. It's a double blind. We're blinded to it also. And to unblind it is very, very difficult and can only be done with written requests, goes to a much higher level than just the doctor that's treating you. So if Dr. Landolfi or another physician wanted to unblind a study, we would have to go through the corporate channels of the company, the sponsor that's making the drug, to make a decision whether or not to unblind. Okay, it has to be a very legitimate. reason to do that. And the reason that we're blinded as well is there's to be no bias, because this is scientific. We want to be fair with the data and fair to everybody. So everybody has to be on the same playing field. So we have to make sure that, that there's no bias in treating the patient. I remember seeing, clinical trials is now on TV, right? So Grey's Anatomy a couple of weeks ago, where Meredith, this beautiful new doctor, supposedly ran a clinical trial for the chief for Alzheimer's disease, and his wife has Alzheimer's disease. And sure enough, she somehow knew which one was which, and she managed somehow to sneak the real drug to his wife. So we can't do that. That's that's really not that's TV, exactly. That's exactly it. It's unethical for us to do it differently. So we just have to watch all that kind of stuff. All right, let's see. Phase 4, this is really longer term study. Usually when you get to a phase 4, phase 3 kind of goes right into phase 4. This drug now has already been approved, but now we want to watch you for a long period of time, to the end of your life, and the end of your life might be 20 years later. So we have to watch and see what the side effects are. And this is where that survivorship comes in, and you'll hear more about that in the next 5 years, that doctors are going to give you survivorship care plans, okay, because we're a very mobile society. You might pack up in 3 years and you're on the other side of the country, and now you still need follow-up care wherever you've gone. Your new doctor wants to know, well, what drugs did you receive, and how much radiation, and what type of radiation did you have, and because we don't know what new treatments are going to be out there years away, okay, that may benefit you, or maybe you can't have because you had XYZ treatment at the time of your diagnosis. So survivorship will follow into this phase 4, and we're going to go out years. We know that drugs that we used for breast cancer treatments, we know now, having used them in the 60s and 70s, that these drugs might be contributing to heart disease later on in life. We know that some of the drugs that we used for breast cancer can affect your bones. So women, by the time they're postmenopausal, they may have problems with bone density and be at higher risk for fractures of their bones. So these are all things that we learn over time that you're not going to see in these initial phase 1, phase 2 trials. So we have to go years out and try to follow as best we can. And very honestly, even off-label problems, off-label, when doctors can use drugs that are indicated for one thing, but they decide they're going to use them for something else, that information is equally important. And even post-marketing, once a drug has come out and it's been approved by the Food and Drug Administration, and things happen years later, doctors still have the option to always report that to the Food and Drug Administration. That's why you'll see that drugs come off the market, because now they found that they have all these other problems that in the initial clinical trials were not documented, or there wasn't a high enough incidence or significance that would affect the marketing of the drug. So from time to time you will see these drugs being taken off the market. I can think of a lot of hormonal treatments for birth control had to come off. There's sometimes with the lipid drugs, some of the drugs had to come off. So these are things you learn in time, and hopefully doctors will report these to Food and Drug if they see them, because they were not expected. They weren't listed in the package insert that they were an issue. So these are after the trials are done that we need to collect this kind of data. Okay, the risks of treatment. Okay, there are risks and there are benefits to everything. Okay, the new treatment, okay, may not be better, and we don't know until we actually do the trial. I think with the Nova device that we saw the slides on, I think the long-term, the survival was the same, whether they were on the Nova TTF or whether they were, on this other standard of care treatment. Okay, well, you don't know that till you actually do the trial. But in that particular trial, one of the benefits is that they had a better quality of life. They didn't have the side effects of a chemo. Okay, so we don't know till we do the trial if the new treatment is better. And we know that different patients respond differently to different drugs. We don't know why. It's probably related to somebody's immune system. I've always, my mother used to say, they had the will to live. They had a positive attitude. They had the will to live. You take two people with the same diagnosis, approximately the same age, you just don't know why they respond differently. Sometimes people from different cultures respond differently to different drugs too. So our genetic makeup is different if maybe we're from a different culture. So all of this does, play into it. And then the unknown side effects or the long-term side effects. This is what I was saying. This is why we have to follow people out 20 years. It used to be, 5 years of remission. That's great. But we want to know, in your 12th year, are you having a recurrence of disease? We don't want to lose you now, so we have to follow you for as long as possible. Okay. Health insurance. We touched on it only a little bit, and I think this afternoon someone's going to talk about health insurance and insurance coverage. This is a really important issue for everybody, and certainly our economy right now is giving a lot of people difficulty with insurance coverage. People who have maybe lost their jobs, who can really afford COBRA, that sort of thing. But the coverage itself, for those of you who have good insurance, sometimes you'd be surprised what's covered, what's not covered. We heard of the nice case where the doctor said, all right, I'll approve the Tarceva for 30 days, and if the patient is stable and better, then we'll continue until we see how long they go. That's great. In New Jersey, in 1999, there was a consortium of insurance providers, 9 of them, the big insurance groups here in the United States, and in New Jersey, and they came to an agreement that they would pay for standard of care treatment if a person went on a clinical trial. So one of the books I have with me, actually has that commission of hospitals that, hospital insurance providers that will cover clinical trials. And really, sometimes I don't go too much into it if I have to talk to an insurance company, and the reason is they're getting standard of care treatment. So if you have a brain tumor and you're getting an MRI every other month, that really has nothing to do with the clinical trial. That's how your brain tumor should be evaluated, whether you're on the trial or not. So you might decide to go on the trial and come off the trial, you're still going to have that MRI every other month. Okay, you're still going to have a CBC once a week when you have radiation therapy. Okay, because the radiation can affect your bone marrow and the production of your blood as well. So regardless of what kind of cancer you have, you're going to have a CBC once a week while you're on radiation. So that's a normal standard of care. And the insurance should pay for it because you or your employer or your spouse, somebody has paid for that insurance, and that at a minimum you are entitled to. So that should be covered. Okay. And let's see. So the insurance coverage, we don't give up. When we get a denial for particular coverage that we really believe is the best treatment for you, then we try to appeal all of those denials from the insurance. And we document as much and who we've talked to. Sometimes it's better than to try to talk to someone else in the insurance company. And that's no different than, your appliance at home has broken down. You called somebody and they gave you a song and a dance, and then you call back and you get somebody else and they're out the next day to come fix it. You can't give up on it. You just have to really keep trying to get the good coverage for the treatment. And here's your benefits, okay? Well, because you're on something new and we don't know if it's going to be better or not, but you might be, you know, the first to benefit from the new drug. And sometimes when we do these studies and they do these interim analysis of the data, and then they say, oh wow, this group did so much better than the standard of care group, okay? Then sometimes they compassionately open it up and they give everybody the new treatment, the new drug. So, so you might be one of the first to benefit from this, okay? And at a minimum, you're getting standard of care. If you get the placebo, you're getting the placebo of the investigational drug, not the good treatment that we already know is out there. Everybody's going to get the standard of care, okay? And this is an opportunity for us to learn. We need to know for future generations, especially for any of these diseases that can be passed on in your family. If a particular type of cancer has passed from generation to generation, you know, you might be helping your grandchildren. You know, same thing with the Alzheimer's disease. You know, it's generation to generation. You'll see whole families, you know, several generations that have been affected by dementias. And if you can find out, either through gene therapy or new drugs or whatever, that you can prevent this, maybe, you know, you're preventing it in your grandchildren or your children. So it's very beneficial to us. Okay, some facts. Okay. We said this morning, you know, that very few adults go on trials. In the United States, there's about 25,000 adults on clinical trials, and that's only 5% of the people who are eligible to go on a trial. But children, 60%, pediatric cancers in general. You know, there's no limit in treating pediatric cases of any kind of tumor that they may have. And, you know, we want the best for our children, and sometimes the trial is the best hope that we have. So 60% of children. All right. And now women seem to be more willing to go into a trial than men. I don't know why that is. That's why those questionnaire studies are really important for us to try to find, you know, gender-wise, are we thinking differently about trials? Why is it that more women are willing to go in than men? But I think that's turning around. I think, you know, typically in the past, men were very reluctant to go and follow up on their health care. And we're seeing a trend where men are becoming more health aware and more, you know, more of an advocate for themselves. So hopefully, you know, we can get more men to participate in clinical trials. And then, of course, the types of tumors. 40% of the trials, and this is all the cooperative groups, it's the pharmaceutical companies, the sponsors, their trials are for breast cancers, lung cancer, prostate cancer, and colon cancers. So the majority of them are there. Only in the last maybe 5 years are we seeing an increase in research studies and clinical trials for brain tumors. So we're playing catch up now. Okay. All right, so what do you have to do? When you first see your doctor, the diagnosis is horrible, okay, and the doctor's going to talk to you about a treatment plan. You know, where are you going to go from here? This is usually maybe the surgeon is the first to tell you. Maybe he's already referred you back to your primary doctor. Now you need a medical oncologist or you need a neuro-oncologist. You might need another surgeon. You might need radiation. You have all these doctors now that you're going to have to see, and it's very overwhelming. And it's to you and to your family member, because very often, you know, you might be incapacitated in the beginning, and you're going to need someone to drive you. I'm sure some people here were not allowed to drive right after they had their surgery, okay? And depending on the type of tumor it is, you might always need a companion or a family member to come with you, or a family member to help you make decisions and give consent. You know, you have to be capable to give consent. And that's for standard of care as well as for clinical trials. And then palliative care or comfort care means that you're not going to take any aggressive treatment. But this, and I say this sincerely from my heart, because I truly believe in palliative care, and I also do hospice care as a nurse. I believe in this, but this is for the end, okay? Nobody in this room is near there, okay? So palliative care should not be the option at this time. You have to look at the whole picture, and there are so many good options of care and treatment out there that, that you really need to have this discussion at a later date with your doctor. When you go for a clinical trial or when you go for standard of care, you're going to have to sign a consent for treatment. Anything invasive that we do, and by invasive, it's really almost any treatment, whether it's a device or a drug. Okay, so radiation requires a consent form. Chemotherapy requires a consent form. You need to be informed of all the risks of whatever treatment it is that you're going to have. And the same thing will happen with a clinical trial. Now, the thing with the clinical trial, what's different is that the consent form is going to be 20 pages. You go for radiation therapy, your consent form is 1 page, okay, and maybe your chemotherapy is 1 or 2 pages. So, so it's completely different. But you have to have that discussion with your doctor. You need to be informed of, you know, what is the purpose of the study, how long am I going to be in it, what are the risks, what are the benefits, and what are the potential side effects. And as Dr. Landolfi had said, he's the chairman of the Institutional Review Board, the IRB. All of these clinical trials go to the IRB at a minimum once a year. We certainly, when we open it, it's a much longer discussion. And there is a board of people. Some of them are laypersons, some of them are clergy, some are social workers, some are nurses, doctors, scientists, pharmacists, and they all have read now the study, and they've given their opinion, and they ask questions. And we have to be able to defend, is this a valid study that we should be doing for our patients? So the IRB is there to protect the consumer. Okay, we certainly want to protect our patient, but the IRBs are there to protect everybody. And so anything adverse happens, we have to report it back to the IRB. If there's any deviation from the study, back to the IRB. So there's always oversight when we're using these drugs and doing clinical trials. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What is things that don't appear in clinical trials?
I know, yeah.
I'm just curious, things like diet, exercise, getting enough sleep, which clearly have a big impact on your overall health. Do people study them systematically? And if they do, are they not called clinical trials because there's no device or
Right.
something that's dispensed by a physician?
Actually, a lot of the newer clinical trials have built into them a component for quality of life. And so they have questionnaire studies that they will do periodically. So, and it'll be about your activities of daily living, your diet, your exercise, your relationships, your spiritual well-being, your perception of, you know, how you're doing. I mean, one of the colorectal studies that I have, we give that questionnaire prior to surgery, and then we repeat the questionnaire at 3 days, which I personally think is useless at 3 days, because you're just really getting over the physical part of the surgery. But then they're asking it again at 6 weeks and at 3 months and so on, and they follow it out, and they see how your responses have changed. So they really do care to see how has it affected your diet, how has it affected your...
I really have the question from the other direction, which is, how does your diet affect your health rather than how does your health affect your diet?
Affect your diet?
I mean, do people study that?
Oh, they do study it, though. Yeah.
NIH recently, a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, put a special division and looking at nutrition, alternative therapies, et
Right.
cetera, and a lot of them are specifically targeted to cancers.
Right. And
you
they-
can
usually
just go
it's-
on
So the
NIH's web-
Yeah,
Yeah.
the NIH, yeah. And a lot of the clinical trials are also sponsored by the NIH, and the data that the pharmaceutical companies and the, what I say, cooperative groups, those are groups of hospitals and cancer centers and doctors who put all their data together. They're a cooperative, and they do the same thing on the study. They follow the same guidelines, the same eligibility criteria, and then their data goes to the NIH as well. So, but there are a lot of studies out there with healthy people about diet, exercise, alternative therapies that you believe in, and that information is also collected as well. So it is important. It's a key component of our health. But you have to also remember that we have a lot of education out there, but you have to be willing to accept the education. You know, a lot of people, you know, don't want to change their diet, or they don't want to exercise, or they don't want to take vitamins or flu vaccines or whatever it may be. You know, and that's, you have the right to make that decision as a consumer, and if you're a patient, you have that right as well. You have the right to make decisions, even though the doctor may recommend, or on a national societal level, we recommend that this would be good for you. You know, we know children shouldn't drink soda, but you know, you can go anywhere and you'll see kids having soda, and you know, we shouldn't be smoking cigarettes, but you'll see at the bus stop across the street that there's nurses and doctors out there smoking. So my own sister, a respiratory therapist, chain smoker, if she didn't have to be in the hospital, you know, it would just be taped to her cheek, you know. So, but you know, and we know better, and we're educated people, but we make wrong decisions sometimes. So, but yeah, that information is out there. So, all right. Now these are, you know, I put the trials in here that we're doing, and we kind of talked about them in 2 other sessions today. I don't know time-wise if we're okay, but all right. This is the ICT 107. This is the study that is already open here and a few other centers. I think they have 10 centers, okay? This is for glioblastoma, newly diagnosed glioblastoma. Okay, you have to meet certain eligibility criteria. One of them is a blood test called HLA, and if that is positive, okay, then you're eligible to be in the study. What this study does, we take your blood. You have to have a plasmapheresis, like a little machine. You know, you're going to donate your blood, but now you're going to donate it. It's going to spin it out, separate your plasma from your red cells, give you your red cells back in the IV on the other arm, and now we have a bag of your plasma, okay, that we're sending off to the University of Pennsylvania, and they're going to do their magic with it, and they're going to make a little vaccine for you, little vials like this, okay? Now you're still going to have your standard of care, so now you have to start your radiation and your Temodar for 42 days, okay? You have 30 radiation treatments, which is standard of care, 2 gray, and then you're going to have your Temodar, which includes the weekend, so that's 42 days. Then you come back to us, we review everything with you, make sure you had your treatment, make sure that you're taking all your other drugs that, you know, if you have, you know, hypertension or whatever, we just get a review of your drugs, whatever else you're on, okay, and then we randomize you. This is where now we have no control. We don't know if you're going to get the true vaccine that they're making or if you're going to get a placebo vaccine. And then for 4 weeks in a row, you're going to get these little intradermal injections, tiny, tiny gauge needle, and it still hurts. It's still a needle. A needle is a needle. Okay, it still hurts to have a tiny injection, but it's put in the under the arm, the axilla area. Okay, we divide it up. It's only a 1 ml, which is tiny amount, but we actually put maybe 4 or 5 little injections, and you do that for 4 weeks. Okay, and then you go back on your Temodar. Okay, you're going to have Temodar, standard of care, for 6 to 12 months. The study is 12 months. Standard of care, some doctors choose 6 months, some 12 months, some 18 months. Okay, so you're going to be on your Temodar for 12 cycles, and at intervals, cycles 1, 3, 6, and 10, you're going to get another booster injection of your vaccine. And if your blood made more plasma, you know, when we spun it out, if it gave a little bit more plasma than somebody else and there's leftover, you can continue to have your vaccine till it's depleted. You know, we'll do it at intervals until it's depleted. So that's how the vaccine is given. We're going to do MRIs every other month to follow you, and that's also standard of care. And we're going to do immune samples periodically to see what has changed in the blood, to see how it works. So it's a very doable trial. It's just a time commitment on your part and on our part, because it's certainly many more visits than you would with just standard of care. So there's that one. I think you have a little handout. Oh, did we give these out? Mm-hmm. This morning you had these, okay. Yeah. These were on the table? Yeah. I didn't know Dr. Landolfi was going to put these out, but you know, this is why I did them. Okay, gene therapy. This is the TOCA 511. We're just putting this through our IRB now, so this is very exciting. And this is a gene therapy. This is where they're going to use a vector to put the medication directly into the tumor bed in the brain, okay? 7 weeks after, they're going to give you a pill, an oral pill called 5FC, and that pill is going to convert inside your body to 5FU. 5-fluorouracil is the drug, 5FU. 5FU is a drug we've had out for 30 years, 40 years maybe. We use it for colon cancers as well. Okay, so this 5FC gets converted into 5FU once it interacts with that vector. So it's very exciting for us. We hope to get it through the IRB in November. We have some more preliminary work to do to get things going. But what's good about this is that it can be for recurrent glioblastoma. So if you were treated and the tumor comes back, this is for recurrent. Okay. This one, okay. This is another vaccine. I really think there's a conspiracy out there. They pick names that nobody can pronounce, okay? I mean, really. So rindopepimut, GM-CSF. The CSF is a colony stimulating factor. We use it for all kinds of tumors, small sub-Q injections to stimulate your immune system to produce white cells to fight infection. So they're going to take the study drug, which is the rindopepimut, and put it together with the GM-CSF and give little injections for this. Okay, and again, you're going to have standard of care Temodar or temozolomide for it. All right. This is the device. We have this trial open, okay. I think it was already approved, Dr. Landolfi was saying, and it's already marketed for patients that have recurrence. But this is for new diagnosis, GBM as well. And this is a little bit different. This is non-invasive in the sense that you're not going to have injections, you're not going to have chemotherapy. They take electrodes, like if you've ever had an EKG, here are the electrodes. They're going to put it on the scalp. Now they do have to shave little areas of your hair in order to put those electrodes on. So they do show you a film when they're introducing this to you for you to think about, and they show you the whole procedure so that you are aware before you show up to have it that they're going to have to shave your hair. You know, it's important. Body image is very important to all of us, so they do let you know that. And this gives you little, you know, the electrodes carries these waves, okay? What it does is it interferes with the cancer cell from replicating, okay? It interferes with that RNA, DNA. So, you know, the studies have been very promising so far for the recurrent GBM, so now we're going to see if this is going to be valuable for newly diagnosed, and somebody raised the question earlier, why not any tumor? And that's the right question. Yeah, why not any tumor? You know, so it doesn't hurt your normal cells. It's only going to, you know, target the cancer cells. So why not? Okay. And this is really the end. Okay. Where to find more information? Okay, about clinical trials at JFK. But there's you can look for, if you want a different type of trial, you know, you can go on to cancer.gov, clinical trial, and they'll tell you, you know, Somerset Medical Center has this, or Overlook has a different trial for that, and yes?
What percentage, do all trials have a percentage of people that do not receive the drug, the placebo?
It depends on the individual trial. Like on the ICT 107, which is the vaccine trial that we have going, 66% or 2/3 are actually getting the vaccine, and 1/3 is not getting it. But it'll vary. It's not always a 50-50 sort of thing.
My question is, when you participate in a clinical trial,
Right.
is there always a segment of those participants that receive the placebo?
Not always. It depends on also like what stage of the trial that you're getting. So usually it's the stage 3 or 4 trial that they do a randomization. Okay, but stage 1 and 2.
Yeah, usually stage 1, from what I gather.
Yes, definitely.
There's so few people that are in it,
Right,
they
very
all put
small.
on the drug.
Even
They just
stage
wanted
2
to
trials, there's only maybe 100 people. But stage 1 trials, you might have 20 people. But in stage 2, you might have 100 people. But it's when you get to stage 3 and 4 that you get hundreds and thousands of people on the trial.
Another question. What percentage of those trials are covered by the insurance company in general? Your experience?
I can't, I mean, I haven't had people denied insurance coverage for the trial. What has happened is that they're denied standard of care, or they're told they have to pay for the drug out of pocket, submit the bills, and they'll be reimbursed. And that's standard of care. That has nothing to do with the trial. The drugs in the trial are provided because they're not marketed yet. You can't purchase them.
They're provided free.
They're provided free, right. And if they want additional testing, if they want additional blood work, or they want additional scans, they will pay for that also. Some trials will give you a little bit of money to pay for transportation costs or something like that as well. You know, some of them give you a gas card or, you know, a gift card, you know, so that you can, you know, pay for out-of-pocket expenses.
When he referred to the Tokogen being 18,000 a month, what was he referring to?
Is that what he said? It was 18,000 a month?
That was
Oh, the Novacure.
Because it became commercially available, so it's no
Right, so insurance is not covering that. So, not yet.
If it's
So-
successful, they won't cover it.
No, I won't say that. I won't say that. Okay. There's your questions. Thank you.